there, friends. Welcome to Curlers and Conversations. I'm Chrissy, missionary wife, mindset coach, miracle mom, and your go-to for all things faith, style, and savvy living. So join me and some amazing guests as we share our stories, break free from expectations, and embrace the messy, joyful truth. We're talking faith, wellness, and real-life tips to help you live your best life, all without losing your identity. So grab that cup of coffee or tea and let's start that conversation. All right, y'all. Today's episode is going to be amazing. My guest, Nadine Blom, is a South African powerhouse, an award-winning singer, speaker, writer, and all-around creative queen. She's rocked big stages, recorded beautiful albums, and poured into people's hearts across the country. But here's what I love most about her. She's also one of my dearest friends. She keeps it real, and she's not afraid to talk about the messy middle between platform and purpose. So we've done ministry together, we've dreamed together, we've even wrangled kids together, including the time my daughter sang in one of her very first kids videos and took voice lessons from her. So today's conversation, it's not an interview, it's a girlfriend chat, and she's pulling back the curtain on what it really looks like to live in the spotlight while staying rooted in faith. So whether you're driving, doing the dishes, or rocking those curlers right now, get comfy because this is going to be a good one. Hello, Nadine.
It's so special to be chatting to you today. Thank you for the honor, my Chris.
So we are both sitting in South Africa, but I'm in Cape Town. Where are you right now?
I'm in Lady Grey, looking at this beautiful mountain in front of me.
Wow.
And I'm hearing the stream and the lake because we had a lot of rain recently.
Yes.
So I'm just in nature.
You're just in a comfy downtime at the moment.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Because life's been very hectic and busy.
It has.
Nadine, you've got this beautiful blend of faith and visibility. You're a worship leader, a speaker, a radio host. So what's that really like behind the scenes? So how do you stay spiritually grounded when you're constantly on for others?
Chris, I think when I was younger, I thought that it was possible to keep a perfect balance. And you try to convince yourself of, I can do this. Even in interviews, people would ask you this, or journalists, and you would say, no, we have family time and we have quality time. And there's this perfect world that you're trying to basically project. But deep inside, it's not that easy. It's not that easy ever, I think, for any of us to keep the balance. And I have to be very honest, and you said this in the intro as well, is the realness is a big part of who I am and what I portray. And once again, I have failed to keep it at times. And even in those times, it's interesting how the Lord just comes and he just pulls you. At first, he just tugs at you, and then after a while, he'll grab you in a bit stronger. And then if you still don't listen, then he'll take you down. And then he makes pretty sure that you listen. And I think what I've learned is really to work hard, because it is hard work, to not get to that place where I lose complete balance.
Because I know you and I both know what it feels like to almost live in a fishbowl.
Yeah. Yeah, you've always got people looking, Chris. I remember once I had an interview with a journalist and I went through a personal storm, and it was a massive storm. And she said to me, but how can you sing gospel or worship if you had a judgment error such as this one? It was in my marriage. It was something really hard for me that I went through. And I said to her, the fact that I'm a child of God does not disclaim me from being tested or from making judgment errors or from sinning or from making wrong decisions in life. So yeah, you do live in a fishbowl in a sense. It's a very lonely life. I think people tend to think, oh, you're on the stage or you're so popular or you have people around you all the time. But in actual fact, it's a very lonely life. Yeah, and you basically can't trust too many people. It's hard to say that. But for some reason, people tend to think that fame it's attracting. And I really think, and I firmly believe that most people who are in the public eye didn't start doing that to become famous or to become public. They start doing what they're doing because, as you said, it's your calling. It's something that you felt tug at you and you had a burning desire, like an urge, you have to go and do this. And this is what God, for in my case, definitely God expected of me to do. So the other part came with it, and I didn't necessarily always like that. I still don't always particularly like people looking in and criticizing or thinking on, yeah, she thinks she's so this and she's so that. And actually, I'm not. Actually, I live a frugal life. Yeah, I would like to think of myself as a missionary as well. Because what I
Yes,
do
I
is
truly believe you are.
yeah, I'm basically sold out to Jesus. But that doesn't mean that we don't get to do things in the world where we have to keep our value system. And it's hard sometimes to,
It is so
um,
hard. It is
yeah.
so hard. We were speaking about this the other day on the podcast with my friend Lynette, and we were talking about how, especially when you are a woman in ministry or have any type of platform at all, I'm a missionary that a lot of people know, as well as you're are on stage or you're in the public eye. But there's a lot of times when it can be very lonely, but it can also be very, what's the word I'm looking for? People have a sense of ownership over you to where they feel like they can have an
Mm.
opinion about everything that you do or what you should be doing and what that you shouldn't be doing. do you
Yeah,
do you
and
find
you don't
that?
have control over it. You've
Right.
got no control over it. People can just not like your hair color, and they could think that you are my hair color is red. Now redheads are known to be a bit more feisty. I don't know what the right word
Fiery.
is. Yeah, and I'm soft. I'm
Yeah.
empathic. I do
Yes.
have firm boundaries. I had to learn to have boundaries because of
You
my
need to
work,
put those
especially.
up.
But,
Yeah.
and we've had several of these kind of discussions, and you've had to, in the past, help me set up boundaries for people who was abusing me. So once again, there's this perception of, okay, she's a redhead, she's this, she's that, where in actual fact, I might not be. I might be especially very soft inside.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're very right. And I think that's a war that you will never win. And that's partially also why my circle is so small. And that's why my privacy is everything to me. And that's why I don't live a public life in the true sense of the word, where I don't attend the red carpet events all the time. I don't wiggle myself into the circles. Honestly, I don't care for them. I don't care for these kind of, what do we call it? The celebrity, I don't know.
The lifestyle of the rich and famous.
And I think there's a lot of people who move in those circles who they
Yeah,
understand that game, and it's a game. It's a stage of its own. But for me, it's about how do we impact lives, and
exactly.
how do we help someone who's really going through a hard time? That mom who's struggling to have a relationship with her kid because of a divorce, or that dad who's struggling to pay the bills, struggling to remember his worth, his identity in God. The fact that we all have months where we don't know how we're going to pay bills, that he's not alone. That teacher, she just can't anymore. She doesn't know how to get out of bed in the morning, or whoever it is. In the end of it, Chris, it's all about how do we touch each other's lives? How are we the hands and
Mm,
feet, and without being too religious about it. I never want to push Jesus down in people's throats, because
right.
in my life, I've had that happen to me, where that was really the last thing I needed to hear at that moment was, yeah, but God has a good plan. Yeah, sure, I know this. It's in the Bible, but I'm still struggling with this storm in this moment and this hurt
Mhm.
and this pain. And as a human, I'm standing here alone. God is next to me, but I still have to be the one who drives the situation home.
Exactly.
So I think that the crux of it, or the gist of it, is how does my life and my stories and the things that I live and that I speak, how can I help others with my story? And it might sound like a cliche, but I just often think people look at us and we don't really always know they're looking at us. You can be quiet about things that happen in your life, and you don't have to splash it all out there on social media. But
Right.
in a sense, people pick up that you're going through a hard time. And then they look at how you're handling it, and they look at
Oh, for
where
sure.
you're looking for your help. Now and then, I would go to social media. I don't do it often, but you would know this, that I would go to social media and say, I'm really going through a very hard time. But it's not often. I can count it on my one hand the times I've done that. So, in the same sense of being real, one must also be careful not to dump emotionally on your
Yes.
people and on the people around you. I mean, it's okay to have to be real, but we must just also be careful in putting ourselves out there that we don't dump our emotional stuff that we go through.
Mhm.
We can dump it with Jesus. We can dump it
Exactly.
at God's feet. So,
Well,
yeah, social media is not a therapy or a
right.
coach. It's a platform where we connect. And I think just being private about your private stuff is good. You can be public about your private stuff to your tribe and to God.
Yes.
And that's what I also try to do in my own career. I've made a lot of mistakes in my younger years where I would share things about my then marriage because the journalists make you believe the people want to know how you are, people want to know how it's going with you. And
Do you ever feel pressure to always be okay just because people are watching?
totally. And yeah, and I've refused a lot of interviews because it was interviews that was digging into
Hmm.
my personal life. And I like to keep my personal life personal. If someone in a small room or at a ladies' morning would ask me, "Are you okay?" I'll be open about it and say, "I'm going through a hard time." But then I know
Exactly.
the person that's standing in front of me is someone who's empathically asking if I'm okay. So you have to be wise in what you share out there on which platform, if that makes sense, Chris.
For sure. And to some people, it can almost look like that there's moments when your private life didn't match your public platform because you're drawing that line. Boundaries. Setting boundaries is so important, but it is so important when we live in that fishbowl as well. So that brings me to another question that I had for you. The power of saying no. Like I've learned through you actually in our discussions that no is actually a full sentence, and there's times when no is very powerful, and yet we don't have to lay our piece down in order to just accommodate someone else. So I think one of the hardest things for women in ministry or even in the public eye or people who are serving is knowing when to say no sometimes, because we're people pleasers, or at least I am. I'm a people pleaser. So I've learned a lot watching you saying no. But can you take us back to a time when saying no actually protected your peace or your family?
Chris, I must be honest with you, that in itself was a massive journey for me as well. And in my journey, I always say I think I could buy 3 houses if I had to take all the money I invested in therapy.
Yeah.
But it was the right thing to do because
Yeah.
it gave me such peace. So, speaking about saying no, I think firstly, yes, as women, we are like we like stick. We have to keep everything together. We have to keep the house flowing. We have to keep the love going. And then we stretch here, we bend here, we give a little, we there's a hole that comes in your ear. And you know what I'm saying? It's
Start looking
and
like Swiss cheese for
exactly. And
I
then
feel like a Swiss cheese and not a solid cheddar.
and then it starts from a very young age because
Yeah.
when we're little girls, we get told, and this is something that's been going on for a generation. Be a good girl now. You keep it to yourself. Yo, geez, don't tell dad. Let's just sort it out between ourselves. You know what? And it's not our mom's fault. It's generational. It's been like I said to my partner the other day, when a man in the corporate world says what he is on his mind, he's seen as a strong leader. But when a woman says what's on her mind and she speaks it, she's seen
Right.
as the B word. And I've seen
Yeah.
this over and over in the corporate world. As a leader, as a woman, you are not allowed to speak your truth in a matter of factly way because you get labeled. And
Hmm.
that's women in general. And really, it's been like that for generations where we have to over explain ourselves all the time, just not to look like the B word in the world's eyes
Exactly.
often. And I've been to coaching. One of my coaches was Janine, that you also know very well, a dear friend of us. And she helped me so much also with understanding the different boundaries, emotional
Mhm.
boundaries, body boundaries. There's such a lot of boundaries. There's financial boundaries, there's friendship boundaries, there's boundaries with our kids, familial boundaries. And
Oh, yeah.
I had to learn that it's okay to say no. And with saying no, I don't have to over explain anything. I don't have to say because of this and because of that and because over explaining also is a part of often a part of the trauma of our childhood. Because if you go back and you look into trauma, and you would know this as a counselor as well, is that when you were as a child, you had an adverse trauma in your life that caused you to have to explain all the time to keep in the right with a parent or with someone, then that over explanation would go with you into your adult life, which happened to me as well. So I had to learn not to over explain anything. And I see often with my partner, because he also, it's new to him because he wasn't taught boundaries. Because in South Africa, we've got also this whole thing of children are seen but not heard. And
Oh,
it's
that
because,
was not just in South Africa. That was something that came out of my dad's mouth a lot.
oh, wow. So,
That's
and for
universal,
me,
I think, and
I think,
generational too, because
yeah,
it's very old school in one way.
yeah, and Chris, that caused such a lot of pain for a lot of
Mm,
people, even for our parents, because children should exactly be the opposite. Children should be heard.
yes.
And to see a child is nothing, but to hear a child, to hear what's going on in a child's heart. So the long and short of it is because we weren't heard, our parents weren't heard, their parents weren't heard. And so it goes back. We didn't learn that I am allowed to have a voice and I'm allowed to say no. And in
Right.
saying no, even saying no as a one word sentence is okay and has to be accepted at times. I'm not saying that when you tell your child, pick up your clothes or whatever, your child can tell you no, they can try. But you know what I'm saying? Even to teach your kid that saying no sometimes is good. So we have to teach them boundaries as well. So yeah, I think it was a journey. And it's interesting that the more you set your boundaries, that the smaller your tribe becomes. Because
Oh,
then
yes.
yeah, people would be like, oh, she thinks she's too good for, or he thinks this, or he. And basically, isn't it how, like, when you prune roses and you take your pruning scissor and I think
You're
we've,
cutting way back. I mean, they look like little stubs. I know Janine comes over and prunes my
yeah,
roses because I don't take care of them. And when she prunes those back, it's, oh my goodness, you're killing them.
Janine, come to Lady Grey. I need your help.
I think she
Yeah.
needs to be our gardener for sure.
So you see, Chrissy, and then in that process, we make space for new roses, for new
Hmm.
flowers, and different seasons, different friends, different reasons. We know this from the word, even where there's seasons in our lives. And I think sometimes I think we have to have friends for our whole life. There will be friendships that will be lifelong friendships, but there will be friendships that are friendships for a season. I'm really in a spot where I do respect my friends' boundaries. And if my friends tell me, I miss you and can we talk? And I really can see, yeah, there's a need, I will make time.
Yeah.
Because we all have a responsibility to honor each other's boundaries. So if you've got a
Yeah.
friend who's a socializer and you're not a socializer, then it's important that we communicate this to each other and say, I'm an introvert, I may be on stage, but a lot of people who are stage performers are introverts. And my recharging is when I'm on my own. I don't recharge with people. So being with
Mm,
people is actually very draining for me. And if my friends and my family don't know this, they won't understand the no. And they would
right.
think I'm just being full of crap, excuse my French. So now, when I know Kristina thrives on socializing, if she
Not
needs
really.
that,
I
no,
love
no,
my alone time.
as an example, I know you
Yeah.
don't. But if we know each other's and each other's core values, it makes it much easier. But we have to also just give a bit of a light on what is my core values. I need to recharge. I was away a lot this weekend, or I had a lot of kids events. A lot of my friends who have young kids, I see how they are so drained. One of my friends the other day said she can't keep up anymore with all the activities. And my heart breaks because I just feel everything is so busy. And where's it ending up? Parents don't have time for kids anymore. Kids don't
Yeah,
have time. And where's the connection going and where's the bond going? But
exactly.
so it was a process to say no, Chrissy, but it's a very important process that each one of us have to go through and understand you are completely allowed to say no if you don't have capacity to do anything. If you can't bake those
Exactly.
cook sisters, if you can't have a supper, if you can't even to our
A
kids.
sisters for our US friends is like a very sweet, sloppy donut.
And it's braided. It's got three
Right.
parts. So yeah, Chris, and even for our kids need to see that we can set boundaries to them as well.
So
Yeah.
what's a boundary you've had to fiercely guard over the years that
Mm.
might be surprising to people
Yeah.
that think they know
Definitely.
you?
Yeah. I'm definitely a very possessive over the people I love. And when people hurt the people I love, I become like a tigress.
Yeah.
I think also just my time and doing my own thing a bit. Also, from a creative perspective, I can't stand it when people look down on other people's creativity. I'm an independent artist and muser. I'm not a record company owned artist. And I chose that route because I didn't want to be told this isn't cool enough
Yeah.
to be on the charts. But I've seen now over and over how God will put that song on the charts. He will put it there without a record company checkbook if He ordained this mission. He will make sure. So I think that's a very set boundary that I have where people would belittle things because if not in their eyes, if you're not on certain stages in South Africa, then you haven't made it. For me, an artist made it or makes it if you have people whose lives you are touching, whether you have touched one, whether you have touched 3,000, if you've made an impact. So, yeah, I'm very protective over my
You
art.
are.
I'm very
You
protective
are.
over my career.
Yeah.
And so often people would say, oh, why don't you sing a song that's more like upbeat? Or why don't you sing it? And then I'll say, because it's not what I do. It's not
It's not
why
your
I'm on earth.
passion. It's not what
Uh,
God called you to do. Yeah.
yeah.
But I understand a little bit of what it's like to be in the public eye. For when we go back to the States, we're constantly the ones that are on stage and in the missionary spotlight, and everybody knows me, but I don't know them because we go to so many different churches. So it's the type of persona that opens us up to silent expectations and criticism, and from people that you don't even realize that they're doing that. But what's something you wish more people understood about being in the spotlight, or whether it's expectations or criticism
So
or just weird moments? Like,
time you have.
do you have a story of a super awkward or hilarious moment while performing or speaking that people are just
Um,
really? It's surprising.
yeah, I think I've had it often where people would say, "Can you make me famous?"
Mm,
And how do you even respond to something like that? Because where do
mhm.
I start to tell someone? I don't even know how to answer that question because how someone perceives that and how I perceive what I do for a living, it's worlds apart. So I think that's something that I wish people could understand. It really hurts us as
Yeah,
people who, who, I don't even want to say that word, but people who live a public life don't always choose to live a public
right,
life. Okay,
right.
it's something that comes with the territory. But also, I don't think I've ever went to anyone and said to, let's say, a writer. You're a writer as well, Chrissy. I would never come to you and say, can't you get me a book deal?
Right.
Or I've never gone to anyone who's, let's say, someone who knows Bono and say, listen, won't you introduce me to Bono? Or one of my friends who played now in Andrea Bocelli's concert, I wanted to go so badly, but I would never pull rank. I don't even know what's the right word to say. So that's one of the
No,
things
I
that,
understand. It's like because they know who you are, they think that you can get them perks just
yes,
because of
yes,
your name is known or you have been in
yeah.
certain circles that they wouldn't even begin to know how to be a part of. And so they're
Yeah,
like,
and
"Oh, but I know someone and it's you." And then it's that's not the way it works.
interesting things have happened. I would meet someone and they would tell me, oh, you last weekend you bride with my friend Lizelle. And then I'm like, I don't know Lizelle, and I didn't bride last weekend. So
Right.
weird things. But I'm one of the very blessed people who I think because I am very real and because I'm not in those circles where you have to look the part and talk the talk. That's a decision I made very early in my career. Is that the other day I was at an event and it was a prize giving event, and one of the ladies there, she's in the Afrikaans music industry, and she said to me, she said, "You'll never be an A-lister." And I
Mm,
looked at her like that, and I was like, and she said, "You're very good and everything, and you've had a lot of songs on the charts, but you won't be an A-lister ever." And for a moment, I was like, pulled into reality, having to realize I'm a child of God. And that's exactly what you said in the beginning. I'm here to do a work for God.
Yeah, she was trying to pull you into comparison trap.
And I'm actually getting anointment now. And it was like a moment for me. And I looked at her and I said, I'm not in that competition.
Right.
I'm not. And I think that's basically something it's a basic for all of us when we start comparing ourselves to people in other similar roles. It's completely different for everyone. I always say, if people ask me that, can you make me famous? And then I will say, that's one of the things I have said in the past is everyone's journey looks different.
Yes.
And my journey and your journey won't be the same. So I can try to do things for you, but your journey is going to be different.
So let's go there. Okay. Let's talk a little bit, shift a little bit, but we've touched on it on women ministry and leadership because that's basically what you and I are. We're both in
Yeah.
completely different types, but we are still in different roles of leadership and ministry. So, what would you say to the woman who feels very much called to be in a leadership role, but feels disqualified?
Yeah.
Or other people have told her she's disqualified. What they've told you is you'll never be an A-lister or you're not an A-lister, and they get beaten down. And you and I have learned over the years how to respond to that. But there's a lot of times when somebody who feels called right out of the box and then they get shot down.
Yeah, Chris, and I think it happens every day. And even within communities, and for me, that's where it all starts because I remember at school, even that started for me. But it's bullying, it's being bullied by people I personally feel was sent by the dark force
Yeah.
to discourage you from why you are here. And you can look, that can keep you busy for years. Eh? It's
It sits up here in your head for years and you don't even realize it.
And I think one of the biggest, what's the word, wars for me personally was to take that and to work through it with God and to find
Mm,
my identity. And once again, a cliched word, but so important is to know that I don't care what someone thinks about my ability to be a leader. It might sound arrogant, but really I don't because I know what God told me about
because
how
God's the
He
one who
sees
called
me.
you.
He's the
Yes.
one. And honestly, that's something I
Mm,
want to say to every woman out there, every girl that's watching, is God decides and He has the last say. And if you've got a burning desire in your heart or a calling to do something for God, then He's going to make it true and He's going to make it happen. And there will be people along the way that's going to
yeah.
try and discourage you. And it's okay sometimes to cry and lick your wounds and go and sit with a friend. And we all do this at times where we just break. And I'm so tired of kicking back against the waves and trying to swim when I'm actually busy drowning. And then you have to take a moment and keep still and just hold on to that raft and just breathe a bit and go to your
Yes.
friends and have a milkshake together and cry together and like Kristina and I would often do, make some diffuser mixes and oils and roller
Yes.
balls.
Use
And,
our essential oils.
and like my family teases every day. They says, "Oh, she's gonna bring her lavender oil out now." They say, "Oh, don't tell mom you're not having a good day. She will
Right.
lavender you and she will jasmine you and
She's going to anoint you with that essential oil.
frankincense." And so, in the end of it, Chris, it is a journey and it is a process. And I really, it's so strong on my heart that you asked this question because personally, I really have been going through this for years. I'm 49 this year. And even recently, I had to go through a test like that at a workplace where I was really bullied
Yeah.
adversely. And you would think, wow, someone who's been in the industry for 23 years, who's paid my dues, who's pushed through, who's put in the hard work, who's being humbled every
And
day of my
got thick
life.
skin. You think you have thick skin, and then all of a sudden it comes out of left field, and you're like, whoa, that hit a spot that I didn't realize was still very
And
vulnerable.
And so, why are we talking about this? To say it's most probably always going to be a part of
Oh,
life.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
now,
you're gonna always have it.
if you're someone who knows about boxing or fighting or WWF or whatever, who's in your corner? Who's
Yeah.
in your corner? I want to ask our listeners, go and think after this podcast. Who have you put in your corner? Because if you've got people in your corner who's supportive,
Mm-hmm.
who's carrying you, I know if I have a bad day, Chrissy, you will never know how many days. If I doubt myself, I always go back to your messages in my head where you say, I love you, my friend. I pray for you, my friend, because I know
Mm-hmm.
you are in my corner. The fact that we don't speak often does not mean we don't know we are in each other's corner. So, what I'm saying is, who is in your corner? Jesus is in your corner. The
Exactly.
Holy Spirit is in your corner. Your friends, your godly friends are in your corner. And your family, who in your family is in your corner. You will always get dream bullies, but you will also get dream boosters. You will get people
Yeah.
who will boost your dream with you. But make sure that the people who's in your corner is people that you really can trust, and that will help and not make things worse. So yeah, I think a support network is extremely important, and
Oh my goodness.
to make peace with the fact, Chris, that it's going to happen. I
Yes.
even literally had to learn. For me, as you said, it blindsided me. And I realized that you were so complacent because you thought that lesson I've learned.
Yeah.
That lesson is done.
We're like, oh, I've got this. And then comes an arrow out of like completely a wrong place. And it's, whoa, I wasn't prepared for that because I didn't realize that we don't want to become too hard knocks and numb that we don't feel. And so what happens is that we get an arrow that comes in and it hits right at that spot
Oh,
because the devil
Chris.
knows. The devil knows exactly how to push our buttons or those spaces. And it's, ooh, it makes us second guess because the devil's really good at mind games.
The interesting part is you in this situation that I went through, I was so warmly welcomed because that's what the darkness is good at, is to
Mhm.
deceive. So you are like, oh, you so what? We can't wait to have you with us. We can't. And then you're so excited and you're like, oh, wow, it's going to be amazing. And then you arrive and this unexpected, I want to say like 5 lines of attacks come and you weren't prepared.
And where you know why you weren't prepared is because it comes directly from the people that you thought really wanted you there or really were in your corner sometimes. And you did,
And
you
looking
know.
back, here's the kicker. I can't even tell you that I could have handled it in a better way.
Oh,
In a sense, I think God wanted to teach me something in the moment.
yeah.
And He did definitely test my prayer skills and my prayer warrior. But I saw once again the power of proclaiming
Mm,
the spirit into a situation and proclaiming God's victory into a situation. We
yeah.
might not always be released from a situation. And that was a hard lesson because I said to
Yeah.
God, please take me out of this. And God said, I'm not taking you out. I have to do work here in this place, and I have to have you here to do the work. And it's going to be hard. I'm not going to leave you on your own. It's going to be hard. Some days you're going to cry. Some days you're going to throw up because you're going to be stressing. But I'm with you every step. And then when this is done, you and I are going to rest. And now
Yeah.
I'm in the rest phase. Praise Jesus for
Exactly.
that.
Praise Jesus. Oh, I know. And as you were speaking, it brought to mind the very first. We've been here in South Africa for 23 years this year. Okay. So it's
Yeah.
been quite the journey. But
Wow.
before that, we spent almost 4.5 years raising support, traveling around the States to come here.
Oh,
So
Chris.
we spent a lot of time just in preparation and coming here. So when we finally got here, yes, that was like half the battle. But because of a lot of my health issues, my body was trying to acclimate to
Wow.
South Africa and all the different things. And so I was getting sick all the time. But very shortly after we got here, I got a call one day from a missionary colleague. She was an older missionary, so she's actually since passed away. But she had been here in South Africa for quite a long time. And I think she was trying to be encouraging, but she heard that I had been sick since like day one, since we came. And we had been here for almost a year, and I'd been sick more times than not. And she called me up one day and she said, "You know the reason why you're sick, don't you? Because you don't want to be here. You don't want
I
to
must.
be on the mission field." And I thought to myself, well, what
Wow.
the cheek? I was like, wow.
Wow.
And it was one of those darts that almost made me second guess. At first, I was very upset because I was trying to figure out why I was so upset. But it was just like, wait a second here. You don't know that I have been traveling around for 4.5 years with two small kids with my husband. And by golly, we finally made it. And it's frustrating to be sick all the
Talk
time.
about blindsided by someone
Exactly.
from the missionary world. It's
And someone
unbelievable.
who had invited us and couldn't wait for us to get here and prayed for us to be here, and then all of a sudden turns around and tells me that's God's judgment on you because you're not
Oh,
supposed to be here. You're making yourself sick
yes.
because you are not in alignment with the calling that you're supposed to be here. You really want to be back in
Not
faith.
God's truth right there.
And I'm
No.
like, wow. And I had a choice then. I could have really believed it and just been like, oh my goodness, you're right. But
Hmm.
yeah, just the fact that she felt like she could say that to me and throw that dart. It's like what we were speaking about earlier. It's like we're in this fishbowl of people think that they have a right to say what they're
Oh,
thinking,
and
regardless of how it's going to come across to you, or they don't realize how much their words can hurt. They might be very well meaning in trying to help you and explain to you, and but it can come across, yeah, very much.
very hard. I know.
It's crazy.
And sometimes those kind of things that people say to you, it can pierce your heart.
Yeah, it can.
And
You have to reset your mindset after that. It's like a total reset. So
exactly. And then if someone says to you, "Oh, but I didn't mean it like that," and I'm like, "You completely meant it like that. You did. You wanted me to feel like I'm feeling right now. And that was intentionally done. But then at
mhm,
the end of it, just to basically do this, you're not going to sit on my shoulder anymore. And I'm done with
exactly.
the situation." So, and
Exactly.
you walk away and it's like someone said to me the other day, "Why don't we see you anymore in this town? You're so scarce." And I said, "Because the dust is off my shoes now.
Yep.
I'm done with that. Season is done. And I'm not going back. I'm not revisiting. It's new things and it's a new life."
Because we
So,
have found our joy and our purpose, even when
exactly,
life gets messy, we know what our purpose is. We know that we can have joy in every season,
exactly,
regardless, right? So, what
exactly.
are some of the ways when life gets loud and messy that you personally come back to joy and purpose? How do you have a daily or weekly rhythm that helps you reset your mindset, or what are some faith practices or go-to scriptures that
Yeah.
anchor you?
So, Chris, once again, being real,
Yes.
sometimes I struggle with praying. I
Mm.
struggle because I've got a bit of a like ADHD way my brain goes up. So what I do, I have I have a really cool channel that I follow on YouTube with such amazing prayers.
Wow.
And I pray this with the preacher who prays it. So it's basically forces my brain to stay in it for the whole prayer. So every single morning, I start with that prayer moment and it's long.
Mm.
It's like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And I put it on and I pray and I spend that time with God. And it's amazing how every day it's specifically a prayer for me. It automatically pops up on my YouTube now already every morning because my YouTube now knows this is what I do every morning. So
That's
I start my
amazing.
day like that. And then I do talk a lot to God throughout the day, but like in the car or in
Oh
situations.
yeah.
And then also just sometimes with a friend where I used to work until very recently. There was one of two friends who were beautiful children of God. And when we see each other, we'll speak Jesus. But very
Yeah.
shortly and briefly, but just did you know that the promise that God gives you today is this or that? And then also, I listen to a lot of worship music throughout the day. I listen to secular music as well at times, but I am very choosy about what I do listen to.
So is
Um,
there a song that's speaking to you in this season right now in your rest season, or
definitely,
either one of
definitely,
that you're singing or one that you're soaking in? I love the
definitely,
word soak.
definitely speak Jesus. Yeah, I speak Jesus.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of great discussions, and I love the candor and the openness and everything. So we're going to shift a little bit and just end up with, I love to do a top five. And so I thought we'd have a little bit of fun and ask you just some fun questions so that let our listeners maybe get to know a few things they might not have known about you before. Who knows?
Cool.
But so the first question, what's your guilty pleasure? Give it
Chocolate.
chocolate.
Lots of it.
Lots of
Anything.
chocolate. Any particular
Lint,
chocolate?
definitely Lindt chocolate and then Eros.
Mm.
And I have to say, I can't leave half of it. So if it's a slab, if it's like a big one, I'll eat it all. I have to finish it,
So
basically. Yeah.
are you getting an Easter basket this year filled with chocolate, do you think?
I hope so.
Lots of chocolate. Lots of chocolate.
Lots of chocolate.
Lots of chocolate. Okay. Nothing. What is the Forrest Gump saying? Life is like a box
The
of
box of
chocolate.
chocolate. My mom always used to say.
What's the worst stage moment ever that you've ever done? Like the worst stage moment?
I think it was once when, and it's really nothing. I've been very blessed for all of these years, but it was once when my heel broke in the middle of a show, and some my fans didn't realize it, but I had to pretend as if my heel is still on. But every time I tried to put my foot down, my heel flapped out at the back, like
Oh
of my
no.
shoe. So after the show, my bum was so sore because I had to, and it was a classical show that I did. So it was
It's a
funny.
real Lucille Ball moment for you.
Yes, totally. Yeah, that was the one. And the other one was when the laptop wasn't plugged in, and the person who did my sound didn't make sure that the laptop was plugged in. So in the middle of my show, the laptop died and the
Oh
music was gone.
no.
Now, but it's not the end of the world, but it didn't look very good on stage. But yeah, I've really been blessed in that sense. I haven't had a lot of embarrassing moments.
I'm going to, if you don't mind, I know you've heard this before, but I'm going to share with my listeners on my favorite moment that I remember. It was when I didn't even know you really. And my daughter was part of a dance in your dance video, and she was dancing on stage. And so they were all backstage. And this was during one of the rehearsals, and you were
I
backstage
know
as
what you're going to
well.
say now. Christy,
I
no,
know.
you're not allowed.
I love this moment because it introduced me to the professional Nadine and the mom rule. The mom's gonna speak out type thing. You could tell you were so totally that you were a mom amongst all of us else. I'm like, that lady's a mom. I can tell because everything was quiet on stage except you could hear all the dancers and all the children backstage going and you were trying to get
Calm them
everybody
down.
to quiet down, and all of a sudden over the loudspeaker was, everybody be quiet.
And then the next line was, I love you, but you need
And
to
then
keep
she
quiet
said,
now.
yeah, exactly. And then a few seconds later, immediately she was like, but I love you.
But we have to do it in love. We have to do it
Exactly,
in
because
love.
I
Setting
like,
a boundary in love there, right
I
there.
thought that was so funny. I loved it. Okay, so what is your favorite late night snack? And you can't say chocolate because chocolate's like it. You've already done
Okay,
that.
no, I've got a better one.
Okay.
It will always involve mayonnaise. And then
Mayonnaise.
and then Provitas and cheese. Like I take a nice thick slice of cheese with the Provita and I slap loads of mayonnaise on it. Four is my number. I have to have four of those.
So Provita is a type of cracker. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right, Chris.
Okay. All right. So our
But a
audience,
whole grain one, I'll have it. It's a bit more healthy.
whole grain cracker for sure. We have to make sure it's nutritious. And then if you weren't in ministry, what would you be doing now?
I think I would be part of a SWAT team who takes kids out of trafficking houses.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. That's your platform, isn't it?
Oh, that's if I didn't have kids of my own and I didn't have a family and people who I don't want to be hurt in the process, I think that would have been
Mm,
my other job, definitely. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. What's the strangest thing that's in your purse right now? You were to empty
Uh,
your purse out. What would be like the most unusual thing you would think we could find in your purse? If you
oh,
were going through
Chrissy.
security and would it pass?
I can tell you, you're not going to believe this, but it's relating back to one of my embarrassing moments. It's the heel of one of my boots that came loose.
The heel of a boot.
And I threw it in there because I didn't want to lose it. So now it's just stuck in there. I know
Well,
that.
is the boot in your car? So
No,
not
no,
the
it's in my cupboard, and I've been meaning to take it out. It's not a big. It's like just the very, very bottom part. And like the
oh
bottom
the
strip.
thing. Okay.
Oh,
Oh, thank you so much, Nadine, for having come on my show. And it's just been so wonderful to just have this discussion. Yeah, if that didn't feel like a deep breath for your soul, I don't know what will. So, Nadine just gave us the gold. And I hope you're walking away with permission to be real, to be intentional, and to protect your peace while still chasing your purpose. If this episode blessed you, made you laugh, or helped you a little bit deeper, do me a favor and screenshot it, tag me at the Bougie Missionary, and share it with your circle. Someone out there needs this conversation too. So thank you so much, Nadine, for coming on and for sharing your heart and just being real. And it was so wonderful to have this time to converse with you, and maybe we can do it again sometime.
I would love that. Thanks, Chris.
All right, friend, until next time, stay bougie, stay bold, and stay anchored in joy. Thanks for listening to Colors and Conversations. If this episode spoke to you, let's keep the conversation going. Please subscribe, that would mean so much. Leave a review and share it with a friend who needs to hear this. Don't forget to contact me over on Instagram and Facebook at The Bougie Missionary. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Send me a message and let's chat. See you next time.